Alright, if you render on the other forms, the cylinder is really not that much different. In a way, it's a mix between what you need to do with a sphere and what you need to do with a cube. The unique element of a cylinder is that it has a flat plane, and it also has a smooth a side that has smooth transition, or the sides are all smooth transition. So in that way, it's a slightly unique experience. Again, when we're drawing cylindrical things, we definitely want to keep those ellipses pretty open. We always start our drawings really loose. The first thing is always to establish where our light source is coming from, and then in this case I did indicate, hey, this is where I believe my highlight's going to be, and then I cast my light rays, draw underneath, and then recognize how it connects back to vanishing points. Initially when I did this shadow, I kind of went loopy, and I started making it rounded, but the reality is that from most angles you probably won't see, especially this flat angle, you definitely won't see the roundness. Usually you won't see the roundness of that cylindrical volume, so I kind of flubbed that a little bit. But we do want to, again, wherever the intersection is, when you cast those rays, that's effectively where your core shadow is, and so from there you can build your transition. I have a tracing paper underneath my arm so I don't smudge the drawings underneath, and then again it's just a matter of going from dark to light. And you see in any of these drawings there's always a building and a layering. It's never a one shot, so you should not go into rendering value thinking that you're going to one shot it, where you're just going to make something really dark and you're just going to build to light and it's going to be a one and done. Normally if you do it that way, you typically end up either making something too dark too soon, or you are making all of the value too similar overall. So make it a layering process, mostly so that you have a chance to look at it, analyze it, look at it, analyze it. And a lot of your effectiveness in rendering value on any form is observing and making decisions about the relative contrast and how much contrast that you want or need to build. Keeping some reflected light is really important because it will keep your forms from being flat. So in any forms that you render, whether it be spherical, whether it be planar, whether it be cylindrical, you're always trying to make sure that you're looking for those key elements of value. And the same thing holds true for this. What we're using is the middle axis on our cylindrical volume to determine where we're putting those, casting those rays through. So wherever that center line is through your cylinder is typically where you can figure that out. And then wherever that intersection is, then you're building your core shadow from there, and you're transitioning around. In this case, because the light source is more towards the back, there won't be as much light side on the part of the cylinder facing us. So the light side is on the other side. So mostly what we're going to be dealing with is rendering a lot of shadow. And again, because this is a artificial light, we're getting that sort of distortion where when it's closer to the object it's smaller, but then as it gets further away it gets bigger. The shadow for sun does not do that, so keep that in mind. It's also equally important that you can cheat. I hate to say cheat because it sounds bad, but you can cheat even your artificial light sources, and you can minimize the amount of distortion that you have in them if you happen to be rendering value on something and you plot the shadows out and the shadows become thoroughly distracting. But our goal here is to plot these shadows as clearly and as much as possible, mostly so that once we get to complex things, we can plot the bigger shadow elements, but then the smaller things we can kind of finesse those, and we can make up the smaller bits of value transitions in between that, and where we think planes may change and how much value they might receive and how little or less value they might receive. So